The market ਬਾਬਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਬਾਣੀ ਵਰੀ ਮਿੱਟੀ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਜਾਣੀ ਵਰੀ ਰਾਜੇ ਨੂੰ ਰਾਣੀ ਵਰਗੀ ਮਰ ਬਾਬਿਆਂ ਤਿਤਲੀਆਂ ਹੈ ਨੀ ਹੁਣ ਗੁਲਾਬ ਦੇ ਫੁੱਲਾਂ ਤੇ ਬੈਣ ਨੂੰ ਫਿਰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਹੈ ਤੇਰੇ ਇਸ਼ਕ ਤੇਰੇ ਦੀ ਕਾਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੋ ਗਈ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤੇਰਾ ਤੱਕਿਆ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜੱਗ ਨੀ ਸੋਹਣਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਤੇਰਾ ਛੋਟੇ ਦਿਲ ਸਕੇ ਕਰਕੇ ਤੂੰ ਗੱਲ ਵੇ ਪਲ ਪਲ ਇਸ਼ਕ ਤੇਰੇ ਦੀ ਕਾਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੋ ਗਈ But what you finding inside? It's a cat. Yeah. Oh, look at this. ਏਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਸ਼ਾਂਤੀ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਮਿਲਣੀ ਯਾਰ look at this peace man ਏਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਸ਼ਾਂਤੀ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਮਿਲਣੀ ਯਾਰ చూసేకి అక్కిరవ్వ మాదిరి ఉంటాడే నా కవే పచ్చి పువ్వుల మరి ਸਾਰੇ ਦਿਨ ਦੀਆਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਬਹਿ ਕੇ ਦੱਸਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਤੂੰ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਭੁੱਲ ਨਾ ਕਰ ਦੇ ਮੈਂ ਨਾ ਭੁੱਲਾਂ ਤੈਨੂੰ ये दिल भी तुम्हारा तुम्हारी तरह है जो खुश
How's everybody doing tonight? Anybody there?
Professor, how are you?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Hi,
Professor.
How you guys doing?
You're doing great.
Good.
How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. No, not too bad.
Yeah.
Things are always good as long as you're alive.
Absolutely.
That's right. So, I'm glad some of you can make it. We're not um, we're not holding class at school just because the internet was down. So hopefully, we'll have people that have received the email about class being on Zoom. So we'll give it a few more minutes. Probably like 5:35, we'll start. Just give people some time to kind of get situated and get to the Zoom. If they haven't checked their email or whatever the case may be. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Okay, Professor. Hello?
Taking medicine, but he's been shoving it down my throat every 4 hours. Yeah.
All righty, let's get started here. Let's see who's here. We got Billy, Luxme, Abhishek, Eric, Mika. All right. Okay, everyone. Welcome to class. As you can tell, we are over Zoom tonight. Yeah, we're over Zoom tonight. Nobody has their camera on, huh? Now, there you go. Thank you, Tana. Look at that. Is it Tanya or Tana? How do you pronounce your name?
Taina.
Tina. All right, Tina. There you go. I just want to make sure. Oh, Abhishek is here too. All right. I like to see your lovely faces so I can see what's going on. It's hard. Billy, what's going on? Billy, I know you were from New York. I don't remember that. Are you from New York? It says New York Life. Oh, is that your company? Ah, okay, got you. All right. Thought you were repping that New York Life. I was like, wait a minute. That don't sound right. Parker, Luxme. All right. Mika. Nice to meet you, Mika. Hopefully everything went well with your time out in the field.
Yeah, it's all good now. Finally
Yeah.
back. So just
All
back to work
good.
now.
No worries. Better you than me.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the help.
No worries. Sebastian is here. All right. Carol, Antonio, Eric, Kate. Okay, so we're good. All right, so let's get rolling. All right, so as you can tell, school is having some issues with the internet, which just got worse over the day. So they decided let's just do a Zoom class. All right, not my favorite way to teach, and so it's probably going to be condensed and short and kind of to the point today. I don't get a lot of interaction here on Zoom. Okay. Aside from that, anybody have any questions before I get started? No? Okay. All right. So if you haven't had a chance to check the portal, I put the groups together. If you didn't send me an email specifically to say you wanted to be in a group with a particular person, I just kind of put them together. Okay. There's 3 groups. I think each group has 5 members in it. I kept the online folks together. And then I had one email that requested a couple people we put together. So I did that for them. Aside from that, go to the portal. You should be able to see it in the grades view, I think. I'm not sure. So check out your group, reach out to your group members or your team members, and then kind of just coordinate, as far as like when you guys are going to meet and that kind of thing. Okay. Something about the case study, just want to make sure I emphasize it now, although it's not due till week 5. It's imperative that you reach out to your team members and coordinate the activities that you need to complete the exercise. Okay. I'm not accepting any individual work. All right. If there are some issues as far as team dynamics and some conflicts with people within the group, resolve those. Okay. Get those taken care of. Because in the real world, I can't solve your problems that you have with someone else. You have to figure it out. Okay. It's about getting the job done. You're not going to like everybody that you work with. Everybody's going to have a different opinion about things, but you have to figure out, okay, which direction are we going to go in? Which direction makes sense for the group? You may elect a spokesperson or a leader, or whatever the case may be. You may do it by committee. However you do it is up to you. Okay. I just don't want to get any emails or a phone call, at the end of week 5 or the beginning of week 6 saying, oh, my group sucked and I couldn't get along with them. And, can I submit my work individually? Not going to happen. Okay. So just let you know now, figure it out. Okay. Figure it out. So the case study isn't that difficult. It's always about the team dynamics and making time to coordinate the activities to lead to that. You're and partitioning the work and that kind of thing, right? So just get ahead of it, all right? And if you can't find your group, let me know and I'll email you your group and who the members are of the group with you. Okay.
I'm trying
It's
to
not
find my group.
you should be able to go to your grade view, I think, and it should show it there, I think. But if not, then I'll send it out somehow. But you should be able to see it. I think it's the grade view or yeah, it should be the grade view, I think. Because if you slide to the right, it should show group and then what group you're part of. But again, if you can't see it, we will I will send it out to you guys. All right. Okay. All right. So no questions. We're gonna move on. Today we're gonna touch a little bit on job analysis, and we're also going to touch on something else. I can't remember what I was talking about. All right. So one of the key things, that HR does, and I'm gonna apologize now if you hear all kind of street noise and sirens. I live downtown, so there's always something going on. Okay, so I apologize for the sound. If I stop because of the sound, then just know that's what it is. All right, and hopefully it's not too crazy. Right now it's quiet, but as soon as I start lecturing, I'm sure something will happen that fire trucks and everything else will come running by my place. So it always happens. All right. So just so you know. All right. So one of the things that HR does in conjunction with departments in section is to do a job analysis. Okay. And the whole point of the job analysis is to figure out what are the components of the job, right? What is it that does the job entail? What duties, what responsibilities, what obligations does the job entail? Because we're trying to figure out one, what are the compensable factors, right? Because that's how we figure out, okay, how much do you pay someone for this particular job, right? We're also trying to figure out, have we covered all the bases as far as all the responsibilities and duties that go with the job in order to make sure that the task is complete? And where does that task exactly fit in the overall scheme of what everybody else has to do and all the goals and objectives of the company and for that section specifically. Okay. And so a job analysis is critical to the company to making sure that they don't have people that get hired and they're not doing anything. Okay, because that happens a lot. People get hired and just kind of don't do anything all day. They surf the net, they go to the bathroom, they take smoke breaks, they go to lunch, they come back, they might do an hour of work, and then they kind of like, okay, well, I'm good, right? So they're being underutilized, right? And so with the job analysis, we really get an idea of, okay, what exactly do we need to do to make sure that we get what we need out of this person to make sure that we get these particular responsibilities and duties and tasks completed because they're critical to the end state, all right? They're critical to, getting the job done as far as meeting the objective, okay? All right, I'm gonna ask everybody to mute themselves. Just so there is no other noise. All right, if you're not on mute, go ahead and mute yourself now, please. Thank you. Okay. All right. So, so one of the first things we'll do, we'll look at a workflow analysis, right? We'll try to figure out, okay, what is the job period, right? What goes into the job, right? What inputs, what equipment, what people, how much time does it take? What other resources aside from just the person are necessary, right? What kind of skill set are we looking for exactly from this particular person or people that are going to be doing this work, right? And so all that again kind of goes into the job design, right? Putting the job together, being able to articulate properly what it is that we're looking for, right? When you look at a job description, that basically comes from the job analysis and the job design, right? Because we've broken the job down. We have specific things we're looking for, right? But then we provide an overall description of the job so that someone has an idea of what they'll be doing in general and what it is that their main responsibilities are. But then we further break it down into, specific tasks and responsibilities, right? And then with that, we assign the skill sets that we think are necessary in order to get that done, right? And maybe even there'll be some extra collateral duties that aren't necessarily associated with the job, but you'll be, required to do. There are things also that are inherent to the job that aren't on the job description, right? Or aren't necessarily part of the job design. I'm not gonna put down, if there's a report due every week that you have to produce, I'm not gonna put down print report every week. It's kind of common sense that, hey, you're gonna have to either print the report or email the report or do something with the report to get it to your boss, right? And so with that, there's a lot of things that you do on the job that necessarily aren't in your job description, have not necessarily been discussed in the job design or job analysis, because it's kind of common sense and it's going to happen anyway, whether or not I put it in there. You understand that's part of the job. Okay. So when you look at the job design, we're looking at, how do we put the tasks together, the duties, responsibilities, and then we look at the, maybe even look at a redesign, right? Trying to change the job or re-engineer it so that it's more efficient, okay? And so now you're seeing that with AI and some of the technology that we have, we're seeing a lot of job redesigns, right? We're seeing a lot of re-engineering that companies are doing in order to make sure that they keep up with, kind of what's going on and keep up with the competition. It's about, hey, what's everyone else doing? And can we get ahead of the curve, right? And can we minimize or at least reduce some of the costs of operations in order to increase our bottom line? And if you can increase your bottom line, that usually bodes well for the company. And that usually means that you're running a pretty efficient and tight ship, and more people want to come work for you and all this other stuff that happens, right? When you're not running a tight ship, when money just kind of going out the door and it's loosey-goosey and things aren't defined well, you have a lot of people doing their own thing, okay? And this is when you get disjointed, right? If you have a team, just like with your case studies coming up, if you guys don't get together and assign each other specific tasks and roles and jobs, everybody's going to go do their own thing. And then you guys are going to come together and say, okay, this is what I have. And someone's going to say, well, I already did that part. Well, I didn't know that. So it's important that, jobs, are jobs as far as tasks and responsibilities are very, very well defined so that you don't have any redundancy in efforts. Okay. Also, people work better when they know what their goal is or what their end state is, right? You don't want to keep it nebulous and vague to where they don't know what's going on, right? And so you really want to identify, hey, this is what you're going to do. This is what I'm going to do. This is what somebody else is going to do, right? And then you put deadlines to it, okay? You may, depending on how long the task is, you may have, sub milestones within that particular job just to kind of give yourself little markers to where, okay, I need to do this in a day. This needs to be done by day 2. This needs to be done by day 3. So that by the end of the week, you have a completed project and you hit all these little milestones, and then finally you can submit your part of it to the overall, task, right? And then you put it together, and then you look at it, all right? When it's totally put together, you look at it, you review it. Does it flow right? Is this what the boss wanted, right? Is it presentable, right? Did we meet the mark, all right? Those kind of things, right? And aesthetics and the way it looks is just as important as the content. If I can't read or understand what you wrote or what it is that you gave me, then there's no point, right? It may very well be great work, great material, great content, but I can't read it because it's not formatted properly. It's not structured properly. It's very hard to read. It's very hard to understand. It's weird colors. There's a lot of things that go into that. But understanding that, hey, we have to not only get the team together, we have to assign tasks, but we have to put together a product that is going to be acceptable and suitable for what we're trying to do. Okay. All right. So next thing we're talking about is different types of employees, which I'm sure everyone's familiar with, right? We got full-time employees, part-time, independent contractor, temporary workers, and contingent workers, right? And each one of those particular types of employees serves a role for the company, right? Full-time employees, of course, those guys are full-time, 40 hours a week at least. and they also, are eligible for all the benefits that the company has, right? And so health insurance, vacation, all this other stuff. Part-time employees typically fall in the category of 20 hours or less, okay? Or not necessarily anything less than 40, just 20 hours or less, or you can be part-time, but still have full-time hours. The real distinction between full-time and part-time is that as a part-time employee, you probably don't rate any benefits, okay? And so because of that, that lowers the cost of employment for the company, right? That they don't have to pay you, vacation time. They don't have to pay you, well, they pay you bonuses, but they don't have to pay you some of the stuff that they give to full-time employees. You're not eligible for like Family Medical Leave Act. You're not eligible for a lot of things if you're a part-time employee, right? You can't be vested in the, 401k and that kind of thing. So there's a trend now that they're trying to get away from that, and they're trying to give part-time employees all the same benefits as full-time employees, right? Because really, part-time employees are just as important, right? And probably even more so because those employees are coming in on a specific amount of time, and they're probably very much more focused than the full-time employees who know like, hey, I'm gonna get 40 hours a week. I got time to do the job. Part-time employees are, usually students or people that, have other things going on and can't allocate all the time to a particular job, or the company can't afford them, right, on a full-time basis. And that happens a lot, right? Then you have independent contractors, which of course, that person has their own business, entrepreneurs, and they make an agreement with the company to do a certain thing, right? We will pay you X amount of dollars for X amount of services, whatever that may be, or product, whatever the case may be. And independent contractors, they take care of all their own stuff, right? They take care of all their taxes, they take care of all their insurance, they take care of all that stuff on their own, and the company is not liable or obligated to do anything for them, right? And so the benefit of being an independent contractor is that you basically own your own business, right? And you can come and go as you please. You don't necessarily have to, answer to anyone, and you have more flexibility. The bad side is that you do have to take care of all the admin stuff, right? On your own. You have to understand, taxes. You have to be your own IT. You have to be your own marketing. You have to be your own operation. So everything really falls on you as an independent contractor. Not to say that you may not have a company and you're doing that already, or you have people that do those things for you, and you just kind of sign on as an independent contractor with a company. But most times, most independent contractors are kind of a one-person show a lot of times, or maybe a couple people, right? Because as an independent contractor, you maximize your profit, okay? Because it's only you. But don't forget, you really can't expand too much, right? Because it's only you. You can only be at one place at one time. You can only do so much work at one time, right? If you get sick, something happens to you, right? This you can't work, right? And so being an independent contract is good if you have the flexibility and the time. And also if you have maybe another source of income that's coming in that's more passive, and doesn't require you to, to really work, right? Me as an adjunct professor, I'm a somewhat of an independent contractor to the school, right? I'm not full-time staff, right? I have full-time hours, but I'm not a full-time staff. I'm not tenured. I'm not put a full-time faculty. No one at the school is, as far as instructors go, is full-time, all right? They are all part-time employees or independent contractors, and we work with the school. Every session, we get a new contract. Our contract gets renewed, and the school, sends us whatever it is, and we can negotiate the terms every time, right? And so independent contract gives you a little bit more flexibility, right? Temporary workers, a little different, right? Temporary workers are very much, hey, I need you for a certain amount of time, and once this time period is done, you probably, that's gonna be the end of it. Okay, we're done with our deal, and so you can move on to something else. All right. Now, Temporary workers and kind of contingent workers to me are kind of fall in the same category, right? Contingent work is more of, it's sometimes it's seasonal, right? So if you notice maybe during Christmas, right, or even Thanksgiving, right, before Black Friday or something like that, you'll see that there's an uptick in the staff in most companies, right? Specifically retail, right? If you go into into the mall and you go into the stores, you'll notice if you've been in there, when it's not holiday season, you'll notice that there's an uptick in the staff. There's more people running around. There's more people doing things. There's just more service people there to help you out. It's because they understand that more people are going to be going to the mall. More people are shopping because it's the holiday season. And so they need to increase the staff in order to accommodate the increase in people coming in and out, right? Because we don't want angry customers. We don't want people waiting in line for 2-3 hours to check out, right? Which still happens, but there is definitely an uptick in temporary workers and contingent workers for companies based on based on the season, all right? And so you'll see companies do that. They have a certain amount of payroll that they're trying to, exhaust so they can hire this many folks for the season. And then once the season is over, which is typically October through January, you'll see a huge increase in the workforce. And then come January, right after Martin Luther King, towards the end, you'll see a decrease back to normal numbers where people are starting to where companies are starting to let people go. And then they get back to the numbers that they had pre-holiday, right? And get back to their normal payroll. And then they'll kind of compare the numbers and look at how they did for the holiday season as compared to the number of people that they hired, right? And then they'll make an analysis as to, okay, did we, correctly predict the amount of people that we needed? Was it sufficient? Was it worth it, right? How much money did we take in? And was it worth it, us hiring all these people? Because it may not be worth it. Maybe we can still, hire a few people next year, but not as many, and still make the same amount of profit. We don't know, right? Because everything changes every year. There's different things, different requirements. But at the same time, we can have an idea if we, take a historical forecast, maybe 4 or 5 years, previous, kind of hires, and take a comparison and take a look at that and see, okay, maybe it's worth it, maybe it's not, right? All right. The next thing that is really important when you're doing a job analysis is really trying to figure out the person job fit, okay? It's I would say 90% of the time once you get past the resume phase of a job, all right? And when I say the resume phase, I mean like you put the resume in and you got an interview. The purpose of an interview is to really check out your personality and to see if your personality is going to match up with the company's. Okay? That's really what it is. It's not about necessarily assessing your skills, because more than likely you're fine with the skill set. They'll ask you some skill questions, and depending on the job, again, there may be some assessments that you have to take, or there may be some specific questions they're going to ask to really evaluate your level of skills, right? But at the end of the day, it's really about, hey, do I have the right person that's going to fit this job, right? Does the person have the right temperament? Does the person have the right attitude? Is the person, agreeable? Is the person, kind of standoffish, right? I'm trying to get a feel for that. It's very difficult to do that in an interview, even if you have an hour-long interview or hour and a half, it's difficult to do that. But at least you get some sense of, okay, this person is like this, and then you compare it to the other candidates, and you really pick the best candidate that has the most favorable mixture of, or combination of, skills, personality, demeanor, all those other intangible factors that kind of come into play. Because what you don't want to do is hire someone who's going to come in and disrupt the flow or the cohesiveness of the team that you've already established. Okay, it's like any other sports team. When they bring in a trade, right? Let's just say somebody gets traded to another team, whatever it is, football, soccer, basketball, right? There's a chemistry thing that has to happen, right? And you may have great talent, but that doesn't always mean that it's going to work because there's no chemistry between the people. Okay, it's like a relationship. Sometimes you meet someone and they're great, right? Everybody's like, oh my God, she's beautiful, she's smart, she's athletic, she's kind. Yeah, but she just doesn't fit me, right? There's nothing wrong with her or him. We just don't fit, right? A good friend, good person to hang out with, but not person I would get into a relationship with, right? Same thing. Companies think of it that way. Am I willing to get into the relationship with this person? All right. Because if I get into a relationship with this person, it's the same thing. We could have a messy divorce because that person may do things that I don't necessarily know right now at the moment that I don't like. Okay. And so you have to be real careful with the person job fit. And you may hire someone and they get into the company and they don't fit the job per se, right? Doesn't mean you fire them. Probably means that, you know what, we need to find you another job. Maybe a different team or different section or department that we can still move you around, that will still use your skill set, but will be, you know, better match for you because the personalities are better. Okay. So for as an example, I used to work at Wells Fargo in investments and laddering and this other stuff, right? And I was going to stay with Wells Fargo because I was going to become a broker. I was going to take the 7B test, which is 7B series, which is the stockbroker exam. But as I worked there, you know, for a while, I noticed that the company was very cutthroat. The people around me were very cutthroat, right? The industry itself is cutthroat. And so it's a normal thing for people to kind of backstab each other. And so I didn't fit well in that environment because I'm not like that. And I'm not necessarily a person that's going to, you know, try to stab somebody in the back because I want the client or I want the bonus, you know, I want the money that comes with it. And so I didn't fit well with that particular entity. So I left Wells Fargo, right? And also, you know, they needed probably someone who was more akin or more, you know, who like to sell stuff. I'm not a salesperson. I hate sales. Okay. I ask you a question. Do you want to buy it or do you like this? You say no. Cool. I'm moving on. I'm not going to sit there and give you 6, 7, 8 different rebuttals or try to sell, you know, ice to an Eskimo. That's not me. All right. But there are people like that. Right. There are people that are great at sales, amazing at sales, and you need those people in your company. Right. And the thing about that is that there's no ceiling when it comes to sales. So people can make large amounts of money. This is why you see a lot of sales folks, they make big money because there's no ceiling. It's all about how much money can you generate, right? But if it doesn't fit your personality, you might not do too well, right? If you have to go out there and sell a product, right? Especially a product that doesn't sell itself. There's some products that sell itself, right? Pharmaceutical sales. Probably pretty, easy to sell drugs. Still a doctor, hey, this drug, will save their life. Okay, it does X, Y, Z. Cool, I'll try it, right? Cars, man, somewhat, right? Car dealers, they kind of, on that edge of, they have to learn how to sell, but that kind of sells itself, right? But there's certain things that, you don't necessarily need to pitch too hard, right? Clothes, for instance. That's why they're in a store and nobody really sells clothes per se, as far as salesperson door to door, or nobody's calling you like, hey, you want to buy this outfit? Doesn't work that way. You go to the mall and you buy stuff that you like, right? Nobody has to really sell it to you. You just kind of go and you pick what you want, right? But again, it goes back to the fit. And if the person doesn't actually fit the job, you may have to do some switches. You may have to let the person go if they're not willing to, kind of tailor their personality to the job, right? And so that is an important component of the job. And it's important because, if someone doesn't fit the job, they're probably not going to be successful at it. Okay. Which means that you're going to have to go back through the hiring process to find somebody who's a better fit, who's a better match for the job. Right. I'm not going to touch on these particular aspects of the job, not what I want. So let me see. Okay, so some of the things when we're looking at considering with the job analysis and job design, right? We look at, okay, what different skills are going to be necessary for the person to do the job. Okay. It just can't be, you know, kind of one dimensional, right? So this person has to bring kind of a multi-dimensional aspect to the job, and can do a lot of different things, right? We're also going to try to figure out the task identity, right? The job includes a recognized unit of work that is carried out from start to finish, right? And when we talk about task identity, we're looking for the measurable part of the job, okay? The measurable part of the task, right? The task calls for, you know, hey, when you start at 0, by the time you get done, you should have 10, right? We're identifying that start to giving it a metric or some way to measure it, right? So that we can have an idea on how to evaluate the performance of that particular person or that particular task, right? Then you have task significance. How, you know, important is this job, you know, to other things going on, either another person's job or just the overall, you know, organization and the mission objective, right? How important is the job? Not every job is important. Okay. I know what they say, everything's important, every job is critical. That's not always the case. Okay. Some jobs are not important. All right. They may be necessary, but sometimes some of them are, you know, negligible, where it's like, hey, you know, if we don't have that, we'll be okay. All right. Not to diminish the person's importance or the critical, you know, aspect of the job. It's just that it's not a significant part of the decision-making process, or it's not a significant contributor to that particular task. Okay. There's other tasks that are imperative that you have to do, right? That are extremely important for the job. And if you don't do it, then you basically is going to fail, right? And so as we do these tasks, as we come upon these particular responsibilities, you know, we weight each task and try to figure out, okay, if this doesn't get done, what's going to be the impact on the overall mission, right? And so giving a task significance and trying to figure out where it kind of falls in the pecking order and making sure that we don't, you know, label a particular job that has a huge significance, but, you know, isn't given that significance or importance as it should be. Okay. The other thing is autonomy, the individual freedom and discretion to work and its scheduling. So this particular aspect really goes in line with kind of how things are going now and why people have somewhat of a not dislike, but a concern when it comes to, remote work. Okay, because remote work is really about autonomy. All right, you're at home. So let's say, just for instance, right now, we're on Zoom, okay? We're not in class. And so, because we're on Zoom, I'm home, right? I didn't get dressed up, right? I just got my regular shirt on, and, you know, I got jeans on, my sneakers, okay? What I normally wear on a day-to-day basis, right? And so I have the autonomy to kind of do things as I want to do them, right? I have the autonomy to kind of like, okay, last minute, literally, you know, oh, jump on the screen and be like, okay, I'm ready to go, all right? Whereas before, if we have in class, you know, on campus, I had to prep from before, I get dressed up, I come to work, you know, there's a certain thing I got to do, that kind of thing, right? So looking at the task and looking at, you know, the autonomy feature, how much autonomy does this task or this job need? Okay. So can I give this particular person who's doing the job just free reign? Okay. Like I just kind of sometimes we say in the military, fire and forget. Okay. If I give you a job and it's a type of job where I just need you to kind of roll with it and do the job and not ask me 80 trillion questions, right? The autonomy level is pretty high, right? You kind of have, you know, carte blanche to kind of do what you want, because I'm just telling you, hey, you have all autonomy. You can do whatever you want with it. Just give me this end product and we're good. Okay. So when it comes to remote work, right, that's kind of one of the things that is alluring about remote work, because people have autonomy, right? You can do remote work, and you could be at home and start the work day at 8, right? But then at 10 o'clock, you go, I think I'm gonna go to the gym. And then you go to the gym, you come back at 11:30, 12, you have lunch, and then you go back to work, right? And then at 2:33, like, I'm done, right? Not the same thing you can do at work, right? If you're physically there, okay? You don't have that latitude to necessarily just be like, okay, I'm gonna come to work in my pajamas. I'm gonna leave at 10 to go to the gym. And then at noon, I'm gonna eat lunch, and I'm gonna come back at, whatever time. And then I'm gonna leave work at 3 o'clock, jump in my car and go home, okay? So autonomy plays a huge role in, when it comes to the job design, because traditionally, most companies don't like to give out too much autonomy, because now you start kind of doing, again, your own thing. And so if you start doing your own thing, you're not following the rules or the parameters that are set forth for this particular job, because I needed to look a certain way, your autonomy gets taken. Now, guess what? I become a micromanager. Before you do X, or as you're doing X, before you move on to Y, I need to see X. Because now I don't trust you. I gave you free reign to do the thing, do your job, but you're not really delivering on what I need. So the autonomy is going to get limited until you prove otherwise, right? And so that's a big deal when it comes down to job design, because I need to know how much leeway am I willing to give to this job for this person to do it their way, okay? You'll find that some bosses are very specific about how they like things, okay? Some people are not. Some people like, hey, here it is. This is what I want to see at the end. Do it your way, okay? Do it in your own timeline. As long as you have 2 weeks, I need it by the end of the month. I'll see you later, okay? If anybody has any questions, just just let me know. Raise your hand, or just you can speak out, okay?
I wanted to say that was probably why some managers micromanage their staff,
Yes.
their employees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's exactly why people, because I mean, aside from, just being some managers are afraid, that someone's going to come out, shine them, and take their job. But most times it's the autonomy, right? It's that, hey, I gave you free reign. I'll let you do what you want to do, when you want to do it, how you want to do it, and you're not delivering. So now I have to kind of hold your hand to make sure that you give me what I need, because I have to go to my boss and explain to him or her why this is not how they wanted it, right? Or it doesn't meet the mark, okay? And so autonomy is an important feature of job design and really job analysis, okay? And then feedback, again, is always crucial. You always want to have a lot of feedback, okay? Or create a feedback loop, right? Communication is key to any good relationship, but if you don't have a feedback loop within that communication, right, it's not really communication. It's really a one-sided conversation, okay? It's a monologue, not a dialogue, all right? You have to have feedback. You have to be able to let your workers, your team members, people that are above you, below you, you have to give them an opportunity to speak freely without fear of some kind of retribution, consequences, or something like that, right? As a boss, as a leader, you want people that are going to, kind of not challenge you, but look at your decisions critically, okay? Because you want to make sure that you're making the best decision for whatever it is you're doing. And sometimes when you're as a leader, you have a lot of things going on, and you may not necessarily make the best choice or the optimal choice, not because you're not intelligent, you're not up to the job. You may not have all the resources or all the numbers or information. Whereas me, that's my particular function, right? If I'm a subject matter expert and this is what I do, this is what I'm on the team for, and you make a decision, and I think, hey, boss, you know what? I know you decided to go this way, but you know what? This way is more efficient, is more productive, it'll get us to where we need to at a lower cost and faster. That's the kind of input I'm looking for, right? Instead of, just saying, yeah, okay, boss, whatever you want, we're gonna do it, right? I want some feedback. I want to know like what it is that you think about, the decision that I made so that I can be better as a leader, but the job can be easier, and more efficient and done in a more productive manner based on your expertise, right? Based on what I've been doing this for 20 some odd years. I think I know what I'm talking about. So it'd be advisable for you to take my guidance. All right, versus just making kind of weird decisions on your own because you're the boss, right? Which you'll find a lot. People just kind of like, I'm the boss, I'm gonna make a decision and live with it. Right? That's not necessarily the way you want to lead, right? Yes, there are times for that, but I would say 80% of the time you want to listen to your team, right? Because your team's not gonna want you to fail, because if you fail, they fail. And if you fail, your boss fails. If your boss fails, the whole organization kind of fails, right? Depending on what level you're at, okay? And so it's important that there's a good feedback loop, there's good interaction and dialogue, and there's an openness that you have with your workforce so they're comfortable enough to come to you when they know that, hey, they're going kind of the opposite direction of what you're going in, all right? It's kind of like the president and his cabinet, all right? The cabinet is there for a reason, to help the president make decisions about things that he or she doesn't necessarily have time to delve into. Okay, there's a lot of things, Department of Defense, there's a Secretary of Commerce, there's a, Secretary of State, there's a Vice President, there's a Chief of Staff. There's all these different components that are in the government that are resemble the same thing as a company, right? The CEO, COO, executive assistants, all the corporate managers, the business unit managers, those are all the same as the cabinet members, right? Or lower level folks. And they're all there to provide guidance, right? To make sure that, hey, you know what, we have a communication, we have a dialogue, and we may not necessarily always agree on things, but at the end of the day, I've given you all the information that you need as a leader to make a good decision. And if there's some alternatives that are better than what you've decided, I'm going to voice those things to you so that you can make, the best decision, right? As a leader, okay? All right, so now we kind of transition back to, globalization and kind of how things are going in our society, okay? And this is becoming a bigger topic, and we have a whole, HR class committed to global HR, okay? Because, HR is different everywhere, okay? And so if you're a multinational corporation, you have footprints in different countries, right? And so how do I necessarily manage all those teams that are in different geographical locations? First thing, and with that, different value systems, there's different moral systems, different monetary and compensation systems, right? Here in the United States, we get 2 weeks off a year, right? But in Europe, it's a mandatory 6 to 8 weeks that they have to take. There's no, hey, I'm not going to take the vacation, boss. No, you have to take it. If you don't take it, you have to have some kind of special circumstance in which not to take the vacation. But most European companies, they're mandated each employee gets 6 to 8 weeks vacation, which most employees take, right? Because that's amazing, right? Wouldn't you like to have 2 months off every year to kind of just vacation time and just be away from work, right? Because here in the United States, although everyone gets 2 weeks, most people don't take their vacation. Okay, you will find that most people are working, consistently, don't take time out, don't have a good work-life balance, right? And they get burnt out. I don't need you burnt out at work, right? But going back to the global teams, right? We have tried to figure out a way, and how do I manage global teams, right? And so, of course, global teams, kind of transition into virtual teams, which we're kind of doing now, right? If, we weren't on campus, and some of you like Kate and some other folks, you guys are virtual. Okay, you're my virtual team. All right, we're doing via Zoom. We're doing it via VTC, which prior to Zoom we had video teleconferencing. Right, not everybody had that, and so because of technology, we're able to facilitate all these virtual teams. Right, we're able to have meetings at strange hours. Right, if I have a colleague or someone that I'm working with who's in India, they're 12 and a half hours ahead of us. Right, so for them it's 7 a.m. Okay. And so now I need to have a meeting, but it's evening for me. But guess what? I need to accommodate their schedule. And so global teams are a little different, right? How do I, pay someone who's in Italy, right? How do I deal with the vacation or the holidays with someone who's in different countries, right? So let's just take, for instance, Ramadan, right? If you're working in the Middle East or, or you're practicing Muslim, how do I deal with that? All right, because you're going to be fasting, you're going to be doing all this stuff, right? But we're here in the United States, all right. We're not stopping for Ramadan. Okay, so how do I deal with that? Okay, how do we deal with Rosh Hashanah and those kind of things, right? Where the Jewish holidays, where people aren't supposed to be doing certain things, and before 6 o'clock, or they celebrate the Sabbath on a Saturday, right? How does that work with me and my scheduling in the team and making sure that that I can get the job done, but still also honor or at least respect your routine, your values, your system, and how you do things, right? And so that's one of the issues that you have with global teams, right? Trying to balance not only that, but also the pay issue, right? There's a conversion that has to happen as far as like, okay, we pay out in dollars, but you're in Italy or you're in, France or Europe, whatever. I need to pay you in either francs or euro or pounds or something like that. That costs the money, that costs the company money, right? To convert every time, right? We have to have a system in which to do that, right? How do we deal with other HR issues like sexual harassment, right? How do we deal with issues as far as like negotiating deals? Because if you go to certain countries, it's okay to give the person you're working with, if you're trying to close a deal, it's okay to give them a little something on the side, okay? But you can't do that in the United States. That's bribery, right? You can't give the person you're working with an extra $10,000 to close the deal to make sure everything is locked in. That's illegal. But in some, other countries, that's part of the deal. That's how things go, right? You kind of have to grease the skids and you give money and things get done, and it's legal, right? And so how do I balance that out with the laws here in the United States, because I'm headquartered here? And then how do I deal with that, on a legal aspect in another country, right? And so for the most part, when it comes to global teams and just being overseas and working, wherever the parent company is headquartered, those are the laws and the rules that they follow. Because internally, you are that particular company, right? Let's just say you're an American company. You're a US company. You usually follow those rules internally, right? But if it's an external issue, then you will more than likely follow the rules of the local community that's there, okay? So when I used to work for Toyota, most of the things that we did and the way we operated in Toyota, they were very Japanese, okay? The policies, the procedures, the way they dealt with, time off and all this stuff. It had a flavor of American or US rules, but it was very Japanese at the core and how they saw those things, right? But when we had legal issues, things that were external to the company, we followed American rules, American laws, right? Because that pretty much dictates the fact that, hey, you're in the United States, you need to follow these rules, you have to pay this particular tax, things that kind of on the more the government or federal level, as far as letting international entities into America or vice versa, right? Us going into another country, right? There's different ways to do it, but us going to another country, we have to follow those rules, right? And so if you look at companies like Facebook, Google, Apple, right? Sometimes they'll get into hot water in other countries, but not get into hot water here, right? They'll get sued in other countries for privacy. They'll get sued in other countries for, you know, kind of the content that's being posted to their sites, because those countries are very much about, hey, controlling the communication. They have different values and morals, and so certain things are not going to go on their website. Whereas here in the United States, if you go to YouTube, you know, if you go to most, you know, in social media stuff, you can pretty much post anything you want, okay, which people do, right? But it's not the same in Korea, North Korea, right? You can't say whatever you want in North Korea, all right? You can't say whatever you want in China. You might disappear, okay? And so those things are taken into context when you're talking about global teams and really the public relations aspect of it. That's probably one of the more important aspects of having global teams and managing global teams and knowing, hey, how do we interact and how do we kind of assimilate or integrate the two systems together so that we have a cohesive single unit that is going to get the job done, okay? Deliverables, as far as, okay, the quality of deliverables, right? We need it to look like this. That may not be a normal thing in your particular country where it's a normal thing here. I think a lot of you that a lot of students that come to the United States to go to school are not necessarily familiar with PowerPoint, right? They've never used PowerPoint. They don't know what it is. And that could be said too for the United States. A lot of people that don't work in corporate America usually aren't familiar with PowerPoint, but it's more so in other countries where they come over like, I have never used PowerPoint. Now, they may have used something similar to that, but they've never used PowerPoint per se, all right? And so they're not familiar with that, whereas here, PowerPoint is just another thing, right? It's probably one of the main tools that we use for presentation purposes. And so if you're not familiar with it, you'll have a hard time putting together presentations that we find suitable. And it's vice versa, right? We may use PowerPoint here, don't use another country, and we're trying to, you know, kind of shove it down the throat of those particular people that work in that country. And they're like, we're not familiar with this particular mode of presentation, and we'd like you to use this instead or present it to us in this way because it's better, easier to digest for the people that are, you know, in the audience, right? And so there's a lot of things that go into global teams and virtual teams, and you know, it really takes a nuanced person, an open-minded person, and also someone who's probably been exposed to some other cultures and who's traveled a little bit in order to run global teams, okay? Because you have to have a really deep understanding of just people, right? And be not only sympathetic, but empathetic also, and also patient, because there's going to be some things that you're just not going to understand, some actions that they're taking that you're just not going to understand. But that's who they are, right? They're bringing these particular skill sets to the table, but they also have their culture. And so understanding that, how to put that together, how to make that work is going to be one of the battles for you as a leader when it comes to global teams, okay? All right, benefit of work teams, right? Of course, working in a team is always kind of the mode of most companies, right? Because one, it really boils down to resources, right? I don't have a bunch of, you know, resources to give to each person to use. So what I'm going to need you to do is come together as a team. We're all going to be towards a common goal, but I want you to, you know, use these resources as a general support or comment in a common way, right? That supports the objective, supports the mission. And so we're looking for, you know, kind of a cohesive teamwork where we balance out the resources for each member of the team, right? Because we're limited in what we have, right? So we have to kind of figure out a schedule. You have it Monday, I got it Tuesday, I'll use it again on Wednesday, Thursday we'll both use it, but during these times, that kind of thing, right? And so teams are, you know, are good because, you know, they've been shown to increase productivity, all right? It's always said 2 brains are better than 1, all right? I always say it depends on the brains, okay? 2 non-intelligent people, people that are making bad decisions, is not better than 1 person making bad decisions, okay? So it really is dependent on, you know, the people and kind of like the staff you have when it comes to teams. That's why it's important to build chemistry. It's important to have synergy as a team, because if you don't have synergy and you don't have cohesiveness, you don't have any chemistry, what tends to happen is all the personal issues tend to block the work. All right. I'm too busy, or we're too busy, you know, having a conflict over the fact that I don't like you because I don't like your shoes, or I don't like your hair, or I don't like the way you talk to me, or I don't like, you know, where you're from, and that kind of thing, right? That kind of supersedes the work, right? Because we're over here battling or having an issue over things that really have no relevancy to getting the job done. Okay, so we need to put all that stuff aside. But once you do have a good team together, productivity typically is pretty high. The other thing teams do is they kind of unintentionally provide this kind of pressure, sort of, right? Peer pressure, okay? Because everyone on the team wants to be seen as a valuable contributor. You don't want to be that person that everybody's talking about, like, oh, you don't do anything. You don't, what's this person here? They're not doing anything. They're not adding any value to the team. They come, they sit around, they don't say anything, and then they haven't contributed anything, and what they do contribute is terrible. All right. And so it kind of puts this pressure on people to perform because they want to be seen in a positive light in the team's eyes, right? So you tend to be more involved as a team. You tend to, you know, build better trust, right? And you'll find that a lot of team members, they kind of get together even after work. They're together. They spend time aside from time at work. You'll see them sometimes on the weekend. They'll get together with their families, or they'll just get together individually, or they'll call each other, text each other. They'll be talking about other things aside from work-related things, right? And that's what we kind of want. We want people to interact with each other in the workplace, but also outside of the workplace. That's why we have, you know, kind of team building activities. A lot of companies will send their teams off to retreats, right? And will do stuff that will cause us to have to work together as a team, right? And you'll find that many times when people go through traumatic events together, they turn out to be a stronger team at the end, because those particular events had, you know, a very negative effect on them, and they had to come together to figure out a solution in which to overcome the negative event, right? Or the negative occasion, right? This is why you see sometimes people will hold up. Trauma bonding. Yes, that's it. Trauma bonding. Exactly. Yep. And Tony, you're right. That's exactly what it is, right? People bond over trauma. This is why when you go to, like, you know, when someone dies, everyone comes together, right? When it's a catastrophe, people come together. Your neighbor that you never spoke to, you know, didn't like you, will come over and help you cut the tree down, or help you clean up after a hurricane or some kind of flooding or some kind of event that occurred, right? People are more likely to be kinder to each other, right, in the midst of tragedy, right? Because no one wants tragedy. No one wants to be, you know, impacted in that way. But unfortunately, those events, they really help to build a stronger bond between people, right? They build better trust or stronger trust, okay? In addition, when you have teams, teams tend to be able to teach each other things, okay? You get this kind of cross training that occurs, you know, within the team members. So let's just say I was on a team with Amika, Cade, and Maria, and, you know, and I'm asking them questions about, you know, what it is they do, right? Engineering or IT, or, you know, or you're asking me questions about AI or that kind of thing, right? That's something you didn't know before. And I'm trying to impart certain knowledge upon you, right? So that you have a better understanding as to what I do, but how do I fit within the team, right? And in addition, that may pique your interest to say, you know what, I kind of like that, right? Maybe I'll go check it out some more. Maybe I'll go take a class or do something to where I can build that skill set, right? And so you get this kind of learning environment at the same time, okay? That kind of helps the team be better, right? It kind of fills gaps where, for instance, if one of us is gone or one of us is sick or something like that, maybe I can step in to do your job while you're down, right? Because I understand what you do. You taught me this XYZ, and it's enough for me to, you know, kind of do both jobs till you get back, right? So that we don't have a lapse in production or, you know, what we're doing, and we're still marching towards our goal and within the timeline. Okay. And then the other thing is individual diversity and knowledge, skills, and abilities, right? Again, diversity is an important aspect of any corporation. Okay. And we are always, you know, especially in the United States, because we have a diverse population, we always are striving to have as diverse a group as possible, right? And so you've seen a big push in DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion within the workplace, right? Within corporate America in the past 10 years. And it is more diverse, still has a lot of work to do, but that, you know, starts from the lowest levels, right? It starts very much from elementary school. It starts from the neighborhoods and the opportunities that are provided to the individuals so that they can see that, hey, there's other options out there. There's other things to do. I can be part of this space, but that mindset starts from when you're young, right? It has to be imparted to you when you're, you know, kind of in that learning stage and at a level where it's going to make a difference for you, right? Whereas, okay, I expose someone to something in high school, which, you know, kind of alters their decision as far as saying like whether or not they're going to go to college or they're going to just go to technical school or what they're going to study in college. Okay. And so, you know, it kind of introduces that person to a different field where there may not be a lot of folks in that particular field, right? I'm going to use another sports analogy to kind of, you know, demonstrate this. Before, and this may be before some of your time, right? But before Tiger Woods, everybody familiar with Tiger Woods, right? Right? Everybody good with Tiger Woods? Okay. Before Tiger Woods, I didn't watch much golf. Okay. I took golf in college. All right. But before that, even before college, before I joined the military, golf was just some word. I never watched it, never played it. You know, we didn't have golf in, you know, growing up in New York and Brooklyn. I didn't have access to those kind of particular things, right? So before Tiger Woods came, most African Americans in the United States anyway, were not big into golf. Okay. Once Tiger Woods came, golf became more exposed to the community. Okay. So now you have different minorities, different groups of people that never even took an interest in golf. All of a sudden they're interested in it. All right. This leads to more diversity within the golf world, right? Same thing with tennis. Before Serena, before, you know, Venus, right? We had a few people in tennis that were notable. Arthur Ashe, Thea Gibson, you know, Michael Chang, he was a Chinese, you know, tennis player, right? But, you know, those folks were kind of sparse and far few between. When Venus and Serena came on deck, right, it kind of, you know, propelled diversity into tennis, okay? In many ways, not only in the sense of race, but also gender, where it highlighted the sport from a female standpoint to say, look, women are just as good as the sport as men are, and you can make a great living doing this. Okay. What's up, Billy?
Yeah, I was about to say, you see that now in NASCAR.
Yes, you see that in
Michael
NASCAR.
Jordan
Yep.
bought a NASCAR team, and then he bought the one black driver, Bubba Wallace, and now
Yeah,
there's 2 or 3
mhm.
more drivers.
Yep. Yep. You see, it's definitely getting there to where, due to the exposure, one or two people that have, kind of broken into the sport or into that particular landscape, you start seeing more and more of a diverse, spectrum within the demographics of those particular entities, right? And it's the same thing for corporate America. You start seeing more minorities at the higher levels, right? Being more women, being more African American, being more Asian, Pacific Islander, whatever it is, right? You're starting to see more of that at the top, and not less of it at the bottom, but it's starting to slowly be even, right? Because you don't want where you have all the minority folks at the bottom, and then everybody that's at the top is of a certain race, okay, or ethnicity. It doesn't matter if it's all African American and everybody at the bottom is white, or vice versa, or Spanish. It doesn't matter, right? You want a balanced company, you want a balanced organization, right? And so they're working towards that, right? When it comes to diversity and making sure that we have an open workplace where people feel included, inclusive, regardless of their religion, regardless of their gender, sexual orientation, because none of that has any influence on the way you perform. Okay, I don't care if your hair is purple. What does that have to do with the job? Okay, I've had some of the strangest people as far as clothes and their personal appearance. I had a guy work for me one time. He had tattoos from head to toe. He wasn't a criminal, never been to prison, anything like that. He just liked tattoos. But he was one of my best guys. And I loved him, but when you first saw him, he's very off-putting. When I took him to meetings, it was kind of hard the first 5 minutes because everybody would be staring at him, okay? Because he had all these tattoos. But he's probably one of the most proficient and efficient people that I've worked with, and he knew his stuff. And that's all I cared about, right? And he was a good person, right? And so, diversity is just one of those things where we're steadily working on it. We're trying to get better, and it's not always, and from a global standpoint, diversity isn't an issue for everyone, okay? Because diversity in many regards is about race here in the United States. In other countries, it can't be about race, right? Because those countries are very homogeneous, right? When you go to Africa, most Africans are black. Okay. When you go to China, everybody's 99% Chinese. Okay. What's up, Billy?
Oh, I'm sorry. I pressed the wrong button.
Okay, no worries. When you go to different countries, they're very much the same people. But when you're in the United States, everybody's different. Okay, you're gonna run into the gambit here, even in San Diego, you run into so many different people. Okay, and San Diego's not necessarily the biggest melting pot. It's diverse to a certain degree, but it's not, right? We kind of have an idea of what is here in San Diego. And mostly Hispanic, mostly Caucasian, some African American, here and there. Okay, some Middle Eastern. All right, but for the most part, it's very strong, very Hispanic heavy, right? But that makes sense because this used to be Mexico. Okay, everything west of the Mississippi River used to be Mexico. So it makes sense that there's still some remnants of that, and people are kind of diverse in that sense. But when you go to the East Coast, specifically when I grew up in New York, there's everything there. Okay, everything. And so it's just different when you talk about diversity. It really depends on where you're at and how to apply it, right? The diversity looks different in China. It may be something based on, your social status, or maybe something based on the region you're from, okay? Whether or not we're gonna let you into the club, or we're gonna be inclusive of you. You may come from this region and we don't like you, or this region, this province is considered poor and uneducated, and so you can't necessarily move up in your lot in life and that kind of thing. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Okay, so telework, we kind of talked about telework a little bit already, okay? But that's kind of, where people and companies are leveraging some of these benefits where they say, hey, you know what? Telework or remote work are something that people like to do. And so instead of fighting it, let's kind of use it to our advantage. Now it's part of the compensation package or one of the benefits. You can work remotely, you could work telework, you have to only come into the office once or twice a week, and the rest of the time you can work from home, right? Or co-working space. Everybody familiar with WeWorks? No? Okay.
They
So
have an office building in La Jolla.
yeah, they have one in La Jolla, there's one in downtown, there's one in San Marcos, there's one in Mission Valley, right?
Yeah, they just paid office space. Like you
Yep,
just
it
pay
just-
for a rental desk.
Exactly, right? So when you're talking about co-working space, right? WeWorks, they specifically cater to the folks that, hey, we're looking for a space for all our guys to work in, but it's not necessarily our office, right? It's a place that they can go to, share resources, but they're not responsible for anything, right? They just kind of come in, use the space when they need it. We have meetings there, that kind of thing, and then they leave. But it's a shared space. So you may have one section that uses it from a certain time and then have another section that uses another time, or we may share it together, whatever the case may be. We pay a fee for that, but it's a co-working space that, a lot of people can use, together, okay? And so I skipped over the advantage of telework because it kind of have that already kind of down. So the disadvantage of telework and some of the reasons as to why companies don't always like to, use telework or remote work, is because depending on your home situation, some people try to do too much. Okay, you can't watch your child, cook dinner, do laundry, and also be at work. Okay, you have to figure it out. You got to do one or the other. If it's 8 to 5 and those are your work hours, you need to at least commit most of the time to that. Okay, and not be doing other things that are going to cause you to, oh, I need overtime. Why do you need overtime? You had 8 hours to get this done. You should have had it done, right? Well, I was home and the plumbing went out. My baby was crying. I had to do laundry. I had to cook dinner. The Instacart came. Okay. How is that my problem as a company, right? That should not be something that the company should be worried about, right? The next thing that companies worry about is social isolation, all right? When you telework or you remote work, you're basically by yourself, okay? And there's no interaction. And there is something to be said about being at work and kind of interacting with your employees or with your coworkers, because it gives you the opportunity to form a stronger bond. If every time we discuss something, we talk and it's over email, I really don't know who you are, right? It might as well be virtual work or virtual teams, okay? And so there's this fear of people being isolated where some people, when they telework or they remote work, they don't leave their house. They don't leave home. They're inside like days at a time, right? And that's not necessarily healthy. You want to be able to get out and still have a life and interact. So that's one of the things that, when you have to physically go to work, you may not realize it, but that provides you an avenue for interaction with society, right? And not necessarily making you feel like you're alone at work, just you and the computer and just the quiet. And, you leave, you're at home and you work, some people work in their common space as far as their kitchen or maybe their bedroom or work in their bed. So basically, the same place you sleep is the same place you're working, right? So it becomes hard to kind of separate the two, right? Now, instead of sleeping, I'm working when I should be sleeping, all right? And instead of working, I'm sleeping because I'm working from my bedroom, all right? There's no change of scenery. And so if there's no change of scenery, there's no change of mindset. And I'm pretty much just kind of like, I'm not feeling really energetic to work. I'm not feeling like, you know, I need to do something. So a lot of people that do telework and do remote work, they have a routine. They will get up, they'll shower, they'll get their coffee, they'll do their, routine as if they were leaving the house, but they just go into their office. Okay. Or they go into, the kitchen table and they work wherever they work from. Okay. But they build a routine in there. But social isolation is definitely something that some companies are worried about when it comes to telework and that kind of thing. Okay, let's take a quick 5 minutes and then come on back. Okay. So 6:55. All right. All right, I'm back. Is anyone back? Okay, so let's talk about job analysis, okay? So when we talk about job analysis, which I kind of alluded to earlier, we're just really trying to gather data so we can kind of put the job requirements together, okay, in an appropriate manner, and to make sure that we understand what each element of the job entails, so that we don't put stuff in there that isn't necessary or is just doesn't add value, right? It's about always trying to add value to the particular thing that you're doing and making sure that when we put the job analysis together, we're going to transpose it to a job description, and that is something that someone could actually do, right? Someone could actually, get this job and meet the requirements and also do the job in a reasonable manner, okay? So it helps, HR, of course, in planning, recruiting, and hiring, because we're going to take that and put that out there as a job offering, right? But it also helps to, help the company to figure out, okay, how much is this job worth? Okay. How much do we pay for the compensable factors, right? And all that is really predicated upon, the scope of the job, responsibility of the job, the autonomy, and also the external market. Okay. What is, the company next door paying for this same person that I'm trying to hire, right? This job that we have, how much is it worth out there in the real world? Okay, so that's an important aspect. All right, so here are the essentials. It's just a graphic depiction of job analysis, right? And the different methods, right? Sources of data and conducted by, okay? And we'll kind of go into this real quick. All right, and then goes down here, job description, job specification, and then kind of the uses for it after it's all done and said, okay? So EO, human resource planning, selection, compensation, training, performance management. So the job analysis is critical for a lot of things, okay? All right, let me go here. All right, so when it comes down to job analysis, who actually, who does it and what goes into it, the HR unit is responsible for the management of the job analysis, okay? The things that we, put into it, that information is garnered from the managers, okay? The people that are actually doing the job, in charge of the people that are doing the job, and we're getting all the specifics as to, okay, what do you need this person to do in this job? Man, I need them to print out the report every Monday. I need them to be able to write algorithms or programs or scripts that do this. I need them to, QC or be able to debug, whatever, right? And so all that stuff comes from, the managers, right? It doesn't necessarily come from the HR. HR just happens to put it together into one, common template, and then they publish it. Okay, so we just manage it, we archive it, we make sure that it's in the historical records and that kind of thing. But as far as the content and the creation of it and the actual material, that is all done by the managers and provided by the managers. Okay. Within analysis, we're looking at the tasks, the duties, and responsibilities for the job, right? And making sure that we identify those things and clearly articulate those things in the job analysis and the job description so that people know what they're getting into, without being surprised. Like, oh my God, I didn't know I was going to have to do this in this particular job. The other thing that we're looking for is the competencies that we think that are necessary for the job, right? The technical and behavioral competencies. As I mentioned before, right? We want somebody that fits the mold of our personality as far as organizational culture. But we also want someone who's going to bring the technical acumen that we need for the particular job, okay? And so trying to get a mix of those two is always the, kind of the goal when we look at the job analysis and making sure that we can sufficiently put those two together on paper, right, as far as what's necessary, and then publish that so that people have an idea again of what they need to do for the job. And we don't necessarily always put down the personality requirements, right? But we put down behavior requirements, right? You need to be personable. You need to be, you know, outgoing. You need to be, you know, kind of, you know, not shy, or maybe, you know, you need to be patient. So sometimes you'll see that in job descriptions, but most times that occurs during the interview. Okay. All right. So steps in the job analysis process, right? Plan a job analysis. Okay. Prepare for and introduce a job analysis. All right. I'm not going to go through all the particular individual sub bullets. All right. Conduct the job analysis, develop job description and job specifications, and maintain and update jobs specification descriptions. All right. So these are kind of the steps that, you know, are taken when you were doing the job analysis. In many instances, you'll have something that's already prepared, or, you know, you're not starting from scratch. Unless it's a new position, usually there's some former or old, you know, job description that you can use to kind of go back and say, okay, do these particular skills, knowledge, skills, and abilities still apply to this job? Okay. So you probably go to the incumbent, right, via the different methods. All right. All right. So the main method that you use for job analysis really is about sampling or surveys. Okay. And you'll do interviews also, right? So questionnaires and interviewing really are probably the best way to garner the information that you need. Observation works, but there's a lot of things that go into, you know, observation, where you'll see something happening, but you don't really understand how it fits within the whole context of what's going on, right? Or you may not understand it at all. Like somebody does something like, okay, why did they do that? I don't know, right? So interviewing and asking questions or having a questionnaire is the best way really to get really solid information for your job analysis. And then of course, ONET, which you guys use. And hopefully you guys, you know, got a good idea of what ONET does and how valuable it is. It's a great tool. And it just provides you some, you know, a little bit of surface level information about certain jobs and kind of the skills and the temperament that it takes for those jobs, and ideally what type of people go into certain, you know, positions. Okay. If you want to be a nurse or work in the medical field, you kind of have to have a certain disposition. All right. You can't necessarily be standoffish. You can't be selfish. You can't, you know, you want to have to someone who cares about people, you know, is kind of caring in the sense of, you know, they're kind and that kind of thing, right? We don't want somebody who's cold or standoffish and isn't approachable necessarily, right? Or empathetic or sympathetic to understanding the person's situation, because the last place someone wants to be is a hospital. And then on top of that, they have someone who's taking care of them that is just not a nice person. Okay. And so that's critical in certain fields, certain industries, right? Whereas that may not be as important in, you know, like I said, working at Wells Fargo. I don't need to be nice to anybody, and nobody was nice to me. Okay. But when you're dealing with customer service, right, you need somebody who's nice. So who's, you know, has a lot of patience, has a lot of tolerance, especially like somebody, let's just say, that works in a restaurant, like a waiter, a waitress, a hostess, or better yet, people that work in customer service on customer lines, right? If you have a problem, you call the company, say, hey, you know, I bought this thing from you. It's not working the way it's supposed to be. I need you to fix it for me ASAP, right? Most times people are pretty irate, they're not in the best moods. They're pretty, you know, upset about whatever is happening. The last thing you want is somebody on the other end who's not accommodating, right? That's why you have this kind of exaggerated customer service line where they go, hey, how can I help you? Yes, we understand what's going on. We really want to help. I understand your frustration, right? And you may yell at them and chew them out. They go, yes, ma'am. I'm sorry for your experience. What can I do to make it better, right? You have all that. When in all actuality, they probably want to hang up on you. Okay? So that's just the way it is, right? And so you got to have the right temperament. So ONET really is helpful in trying to just give you kind of a cursory introduction to, okay, what this job entails, what kind of skill sets you're looking for, what kind of temperament, and what kind of, you know, personality may fit this particular job. And I'm glad you guys, you know, kind of enjoyed taking the assessment. I know it's probably kind of long, right? But it you know, I would say it's pretty spot on, right? As much as I don't necessarily like the Myers-Briggs inventory test, it it works okay. Okay, it's not my favorite assessment. It's not one that I personally go to when I'm trying to assess a person, but it's useful in me understanding, you know, sometimes some of the person's character or personality traits. All right.
Are there other assessment tools online?
Yeah, there's other stuff. There's other, you know, there's so the Myers-Briggs one is the one that kind of comes to mind for most companies because can be given without any work experience. As far as like you don't have to work for me. I can just give it to you and it applies. But then there's DISC, you know, there's a 360, and those are more assessments that are done, you know, once you start working for the company and people are more familiar with you, they can kind of give you an assessment or idea of what they think about you or what you think about yourself or your boss or that kind of thing, right? And so there's those assessments. There's other stuff out there that you can use prior to, you know, hiring somebody, but they're more driven on the psychological end, right? And they aren't necessarily given to everyone in every job because they're costly. First thing, they're time consuming, and you have to have someone that understands the assessment in order to interpret the results for you. And that's not always something that hiring managers are familiar with, right? And so you don't necessarily want to give them that tool and they really don't know what they're looking at, right? They may understand the outcome if it's just, you know, kind of like a template or a boilerplate type thing. But if it comes down to the nuance and really breaking down the particular outcome, they don't understand the assessment and what the assessment is goal is, then they're not gonna necessarily understand the results and how to apply it to you individually or personally, and they may make a bad decision about something. All right. Let's see here. Let's move on to that. I'm gonna mess with that. Let's see here. Where did I'm just moving through some stuff that okay. So again, like I mentioned before, right? When it comes to the job analysis, we're really trying to figure out the job description, the job specification, and the performance standards, right? That's what the analysis is really about, right? Because those are the things that we're going to put down on the job requisition to publish so that people can see if they qualify for the job or if they even want the job, okay? And so sometimes you'll find that companies will embellish the job description because they know that the job sucks. Okay, so they'll make it a little more colorful. They'll make it a little bit more, you know, glamorous than it really is. Okay, if you're gonna flip French fries at McDonald's, there's not much glamour you can add to that. Okay, you need to be straight up like, hey, we need you to mop the floor, flip French fries, make hamburgers, and grate cheese. You know, like it is what it is. Okay, but at the same time, you know, the job description gives you the opportunity to be upfront with the person and kind of not do what we call bait and switch, which happens a lot of times. Sometimes you see a job and you'll go apply for it, and then they'll say, "Oh, you know what? That job's already been filled, but we had this other job that's open that we think you'd qualify for." Okay. The first job that they said that was filled already, it was never that job. They just want to attract people with that job, and then boom, switch it out with this other job because they know if they put this particular job out there, no one's going to apply because the job sucks. Okay, so you have bait switch, or the pay may be lower. There may be other things that people aren't comfortable with that, you know, you may have to bring them in first and then kind of talk to them like you don't want to publicly put those things out there, right? Because the job may have some may need more discretion, right? And so we're not going to necessarily put that job out there. We put this job, and then as soon as they come in for this job, we know that more than likely we can get them in this other job because they're kind of similar, but there's other kind of things to it, right? That happens all the time, right? But at the end of the day, we're really looking for the description, specification, and the performance standards so that we can go ahead and put together, the job posting. Okay. Okay. Oh, that's that. All right. Cool. All right. So that's just a brief, kind of touch on job analysis and job description and that kind of thing, right? The next thing I want to talk about and kind of close with is organizational relations and retention, because really your relationship with the company is critical to its success. Okay. Once I do the job analysis, I post a job, I hire someone, and I get you into the company, and you're a great worker and everything is, I love everything about how you do your job and your personality, you fit in well. My whole objective is to make sure you stay put. You don't leave to go to another company, all right? I want you to stay here forever. And that used to be kind of the mindset 30, 40 years ago, where you went to work for a company and most employees, their goal was to try to stay with the company for 30, 40 years, because that's when you get to your retirement, right? You become retirement eligible and you get your pension and that kind of thing. Things have changed now, right? The workforce nowadays are looking for different experiences, and staying with a company more than a few years is become more commonplace. Okay, most workers nowadays, they want to stay for a company 3, 4 years, and then they want to move to something else, a different environment. They want to move up, or they want to get more pay, or they just want a change of pace, and that happens a lot now, more than it did before. Okay, but when we're looking at really the performance individually, right? We're looking at your ability to do the work. We're looking at the effort that it takes, and then we're looking at the support that we need to give you as far as your job, right? And so when you look at this formula down here, when we try to look at performance equals ability, effort, and support. Okay, what you bring to the table, how hard you're going to work, and what resources are we going to provide to you for you to do your work, right? To maximize your skill set. Because it's all good if you have the ability and the effort, but if you don't have the proper tools or the proper support, then you're probably not going to, be as productive as you should be. Okay. All right. So we talked about motivation, right? I think probably the first week I just kind of brought it up, right? But motivation is critical to the performance and also to retention, because I'm really trying to figure out what are the things that get you going. Okay. What are the things that are important to you that are going to keep you attached to this job, right? Whether it be intrinsic motivation, right? What we said was more of the tangible things like direct pay, rewards, vacation time, right? Those kind of things, as compared to intrinsic, which is more of, hey, making me feel good about the job. Like, hey, you did a great job. You're a valuable asset to this company, kind of giving public recognition, which is free, right? But it makes the person feel a certain way, right? And so we're looking at, hey, how do we, motivate someone, right? How do we, get them to do things that they more likely would not do without some prompting, okay? That they wouldn't do, unless someone asked them to do, okay? And so that's what motivation is about how do I influence people to do things that they don't want to do, all right? Because most people, if you're honest, most people don't want to work, right? What they want to do, they want to do what they want to do, okay? And that happens to be work for one person, but in activity for someone else or hobby for someone else, then that's great, right? But most people, they want to work to the degree of it's something that they like doing, so it's not really work, okay? But the reality is most of us work, we do things that we don't necessarily want to be doing, okay? We'd rather be at the beach, we'd rather be hanging out, we'd rather be watching Netflix or whatever the case may be. What's up, Maria? You got it, Maria. It's all yours.
Thank you. I just think that motivation is a tricky one
Uh-huh.
because it also depends of our personality. So most
Okay.
people also expect that for every task that the person has done,
Yeah.
maybe the boss congratulate him or her, and
Gotcha.
maybe the boss doesn't do that not because the person is a bad leader, it's just because he's part of their job. So,
Okay.
or some companies don't allow to have new ideas like
Mm-hmm.
creativity. And if a person is really creative,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
So this is not gonna work. So I think motivation is a really tricky one, and
Yeah.
also I believe that we cannot expect all the time that someone motivate us. So we need to find auto motivation also.
Yeah. And that's a good point, right? So you shouldn't, like, ideally, right? You should be self-motivated, ideally. And again, like you said, so sometimes when you stifle people's ideas or thoughts, it's demotivating, right? It's kind of, it takes away their motivation because now they feel like they're not really contributing to the end state, right? They're just kind of here just to kind of do whatever it is you want them to do, but they don't have any real voice in what's going on, right? And so then you rely on basically the extrinsic motivation, which is the pay, right? Because that's really the motivation for most folks when they first come into the job, right? It's the pay. I need the money so I can do what I want to do, right? In my life, pay the bills and that kind of thing. But then once you get past that, all right, what other things can you offer me that's going to help me be motivated to do the job? Okay. Is it going to be the fact that I can be creative in the job, right? I can kind of, offer up some different alternatives or approaches to the job. Is it going to be that, I get days off because that's important to me because I want to go to my kids' activities, right? I can leave early, right? Everybody has their own different motivational factors. Some people, it's about, hey, I just want more pay, more money, more rewards, more benefits. That's it. I don't care if you say hi to me, doesn't matter. Other people, you have to acknowledge them, right? They don't do well without acknowledgement. You have to kind of go in there and go, oh, hey, you did a great job, fantastic work, really appreciate it. And some people need it, kind of, in public. Sometimes it kind of works better, right? Public um, public praise is always good. Okay, so you praise in public, but you admonish or you discipline in private. Okay, you don't ever discipline someone in public. Okay, never. That you definitely are going to have some motivational issues there. Okay, if you do that. Anytime you praise people in public, it's also a motivational factor for the rest of the team because they see that you are acknowledging someone's work. So that means that potential for them to be acknowledged also. Okay. But good point there, Maria. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Who's
I have a question.
yes, Kate?
Is it the responsibility of the HR to seek out ways to motivate the employees, or it is the responsibility of the management of the company?
It's both.
Okay.
It's both. Yeah. So the manager would have a better idea of what motivates the workers, right? Because they're working day to day with them, right? And that would be something where, as a manager, if I saw something was working, I'd probably go to HR like, hey, look, we don't have this policy, but it's working. I'm using it and it's working for my guys. So is there a way for us to create a program to where it becomes company-wide practice? Right? HR has its motivational, things that they do, but it's not their responsibility to motivate other people, right?
Well, money is always a motivation.
Money is always a motivation, right? You can't ever really go wrong with money, okay? But at the same time, people get to the point where, hey, money is not going to do it, or there's not enough money to go around.
Isn't that why they do the 3 months? Sometimes within 3 months, people get a raise in their paycheck. Something
Yeah,
to keep them coming.
sometimes it's that. Other times it's a probationary period. We want to see how you fit in and how things are going to work out. So you'll have a 3 to 6 month probation period before we say, okay, you're vested into the company, and now you're in. Boom, cool.
Yeah, but I know companies that would always increase the paycheck of their staff every 3 months. So
Yeah,
they
I mean,
do that as a form of motivation, I guess.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Companies may do that, right? It depends on the structure and what kind of company we're talking about, right? That could give a pay raise every 3 months. That could be built in. All right. So let's just say, I know your salary is 50,000, right? But I say, hey, I'm going to give you a pay raise every 3 months, right? You get an increase. Everyone gets an increase. That may be something that I designed within the structure where I say, you know what? I know I should be paying this person $70,000, but we're offering 50. And then what I do with the rest of the 20 is I break it down and I say it's an incentive, right? It's me being nice to you and taking care of you. When in all actuality, if you go to
deserve
another company,
70.
they're going to give you 70,000,
Yes.
right? So in your mind, you're like, oh my goodness, the company gives me a pay raise every 3 months. I'll be up to 70,000 in no time, when the company's like, yep, we're supposed to give you 70,000 anyway, right? If you had asked for it, we would have gave it to you. But because you didn't, now we're going to take this opportunity to break it down and look like the great guy, the great person, the great company that we are. And you're going to think the best of us. And guess what? You're going to stay with the company because the company gives me raises every 3 months.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that's one way to kind of use that, right? From an organizational standpoint. But most companies are not giving you a pay raise every 3 months, right? Because it's just not possible. But there are companies that do that, right? Or they may change the commission structure, right? Or they may say, you know what? We're gonna give out a bonus for this, right? Or this thing, or we're gonna
Yearly sharing of profit.
right, yeah, profit sharing is a big deal, right?
Yeah.
We do that. When I went to Toyota, they had profit sharing, which was great because it was right before Christmas. And it was, I was there for about 3 months before I got my first profit sharing check. And they, it was $6,000. And I've been there 3 months. And my boss got one for, I think his was 40,000.
Why would you leave?
I left because they moved to Texas. I was not going to Texas. I did not want to go to Texas. So Toyota, the headquarters used to be in LA. But because California and some of their rules and laws, and they didn't want to work with Toyota and give them some incentives that they had previously, they decided, okay, it's cheaper to incorporate in Texas. Taxes are better, right?
Okay.
Carol, you're right. It is manipulation. Yeah, Carol put a chat in there like, sound like manipulation. Yep, that's exactly what it is.
That's what it is.
That's what it is, okay? That's what it is. And Billy, you're right. You gotta just embrace the suck, okay? A lot of people don't, it's a different world between military and the civilian world, and civilian world is it's much easier and makes more sense when people don't necessarily agree with certain things and they can voice those opinions, all right? But at the end of the day, you want the job, sometimes you just gotta suck stuff up. That's it, all right? They say suck it up, buttercup. You hear that sometimes, right? It's not the best way to, to deal with things, but that's life. Okay, that's life. All right. Let me see here. I'm skipping over a lot of things. All right, real quick on the equity theory. All right. So at work, people just want to be treated fairly, right? They want to make sure that, that they're getting the same pay as the person doing the same job as them, that they get the same access to all the resources that other person is getting, that they're getting the same respect, right? And so, again, that is a perception thing, right? Because everybody has their own kind of idea of what's fair and what's not fair, okay? And unfortunately, in our society, people get judged on things they really have no control over, okay? It's a really popular study that was done a long time ago, and it has to do with height and looks, and whether or not tall people have an advantage over short people in different situations, and whether or not your looks give you an advantage in certain situations, right? And so it all depends on the person doling out or giving out the advantage, right? But it's been found that taller people have an advantage over shorter people when it comes to certain things, right? Taller people are seen as more having a lot better leadership qualities. Taller people are seen as being more, desirable, right? And this goes back to really our sort of our primitive instincts of protection and kind of dominance and that kind of thing, right? Where we see physically, right? Because if you think about way back in the day and how we've come from where we were to where we're at, one of the main reasons that things were the way they were is because physically men were stronger than women. And so if I didn't like something you did as a woman, how could I change that, right? I could talk to you, but what if I was the type of person, the type of man that I didn't care what you thought about, right? Basically, I say, because I'm stronger than you, I'm just going to take it. I'm going to take what I want, and you're going to do what I want. If you don't do what I want, I'm physically going to make you do it, okay? And so it kind of goes back to that. Over time, of course, you realize that doesn't work. That's not the way you want people to, interact with you, because when you do things from a physical standpoint, or you put people in a situation of duress or physical intimidation, there's no real respect there. There's no real trust. And the first chance the person gets to backstab you or get rid of you or even kill you, they will do that. To undermine you, they will do that. Because it's not a relationship of respect, it's a relationship of fear. All right? I don't want you to continue physically harass me. And so I'm going to make sure that when I get opportunity, I'm going to get rid of you, but there's no real there's no respect there, okay? And so you don't want to necessarily use physicality to be your kind of your bully pulpit, all right? You don't want to use that as your kind of your leadership style, all right? But it goes back to the study of, hey, that's why taller people are seen as more desirable, more leadership type stuff, because again, if you see someone who's physically imposing, right, as compared to you, you'll think twice about, a lot of things, okay? Sometimes, right? But now we're in a day and age where it doesn't matter, right? Short, tall, big, that, it does go into some things, but that's more, personal and more relative to the person and what they like, okay? But at the end of the day, people like to be treated fairly, all right? They want to make sure that they're getting a fair shake and that there aren't any, things that they can't control that are, based on physical aspects of your being, right? Like the way you look. But again, we know that happens. Okay, it happens all the time, everywhere. People get ahead because of how they look. We have a whole industry based on how people look, right? We have models, right? People model. Modeling is all about how you look, your height, unless you're 5'8" as a woman, you're probably not gonna be a model. 6 feet at least for men to be a model, right? We have industries built on that we as a society give value to, right? Models get paid a lot of money, right? Once they hit the certain, status, they're making millions of dollars a year, right? They're on front of magazines, they're in commercials. We see them on Instagram, YouTube. We're concerned about their lives, right? What do I care about Kendall Jenner? What does Kendall Jenner actually do? She's a model. Great. Okay. What else? Why do I care about anything she does, right? It's our society. This is the way it is, right? Okay. So people don't want to feel like those things come into play when we're making decisions about compensation, about promotion, about retention, right? We don't want to think that, but unfortunately, in an unconscious and in an unbiased, unconscious bias, we do it. Okay, you may not think you do it, but you do. Okay, Kate's like, not me. Tana's like, nope, I don't do that. All right, we all do it to some degree. All right. It just that so happens that we're not necessarily always in a position, And see, look, Billy said I do. Billy's honest. Like, hey, we all do it. We don't mean to do it. And
Billy already sounds like somebody who does.
Billy's living in the real world. Okay. Billy's not about all that sugarcoating and stuff. Billy's a realist. All right. I figured that out from the first day of class. Billy's a realist. Okay, so that's good though. But it's okay to be an idealist also, right? We need both sides of the spectrum. All right. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that everybody feels or perceives that they're being treated fairly. Okay. Perception is reality. If you think you're being treated fairly, good. Okay. And as a leader, that's what I want. I want to convey that particular feeling and sentiment. Okay. All right. I'm going to stop here. Okay. 7:30. Everybody's home or where they want to be. Okay. Shut down the laptop. Go do what you want to do. Okay. Okay. Let me Antonio asked me to elaborate on title justification and what's needed for it. All right. So the title justification is due at on Sunday, 11:59 this week. Okay. So I don't know if they changed it already. As far as the requirements, but what I'm really looking for is, read what the requirements are on the portal, right? But what I'm really looking for is your title, why you chose the topic, and why it's relevant to the field. And so your paper, which is the title justification, this is the beginning of your paper, the work for your paper, right? The title justification is leading up to your final paper. Okay. What are you going to write about for your final paper? What's the title? Why did you choose this topic to write about? And how is it relevant to HR? Okay. What's up, Antonio?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. So we can kind of have open range on this as long as we relate it to HR.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As long as it's related to HR, you can talk about whatever. You talk about technology in HR. You could talk about politics in HR. You could talk about religion in HR. You could talk about HR and information systems. What's up, Billy?
Appreciate it.
And this is for the group project, right?
No,
No.
this is for your final paper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is for your final paper. Who else raised their hand? Billy raised their hand. Did anybody raise their hand or have a question?
Professor, I just don't know exactly for the case study. I
Yeah.
read it, but I don't really know like what is so how we should do the analysis. I also see there's some like material that
You
posted on
shouldn't.
their thing.
Oh, are you looking at
but-
week 3?
Yes.
No. So the case study is actually in week 5, and you can't see it yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can't see
That's
it. So
why.
you should. Oh, you're gonna see it just kind of just like, oh, get ready for the case study, group stuff. You're not gonna see what the case study actually is. It should.
Mhm.
You should be able to see it next week 4.
Oh,
It'll
okay.
open up, and then
Yeah.
within
'Cause
that,
it shows us like like a
Go ahead.
case study from a district, for a school district, from retention.
Right.
So it just shows like some information, but it doesn't show anything else.
Yeah,
So I
it
was
doesn't
like,
show. Yeah,
like,
the
what?
the actual case study
Oh,
you'll
okay.
see in week 4, and it's a PDF, and it's basically it has everything you need to do the case study.
Can we
Okay.
have it
Oh,
open
okay.
earlier?
Yeah, I was just
What's
wondering.
that?
Can we have it open earlier?
Yeah, I probably can do that. Let me think about it.
Thank you.
And open it up. It shouldn't be a
Because
big
we're
deal.
just 2 in my group.
No, okay, you got more than 2 people in your group.
Just me and Maria. Group 2.
No, there's more people in your group.
Oh yeah, I wasn't able to
Where
see the
did you
group either.
find, Katie?
Huh?
Where did you find the information of your group?
I just checked it on the participants.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're probably just seeing you and Maria because you and Maria are the only online students.
Okay.
But there's 5 people in your group. You, Maria, and 3 other people. So you should be able to see that also as far as what group you're in, but who
Okay,
else is in your group.
Billy.
You see it? Okay. Yeah. So yeah, look wherever you're looking at, look for the number, and that tells you what group you're in. But there's
Yeah,
5 people per group.
Okay, so there are some people that are hybrid and then 2
Yes.
of us that are
Yep.
online.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. So make do the best you can. All right with that. Did somebody else raise their hand? Anybody else have any other questions?
Billy,
have.
Christopher, and Emeka, can you see your messages, please?
And where? In the chat?
The model, yes.
What about it?
No, it's just for our group. Because this is the only time I can get to speak with them.
I'm
Yeah,
confused. What do you want me to do?
No, I'm just asking Billy and Christopher and Emeka.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to it now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Reach out.
I'm cooking right now, so like,
Yeah, reach out to each other. Once you see your groups, reach out to each other on email. Okay. You should be checking your email at least once a day or once every other day, just to make sure you're keeping on top of things, right? But reach out once you figure out who your group members are. Reach out to your members via email. Or now if you want, if you know who's in your group, you can kind of talk about it right now if you want. Yes, Maria.
Just to be sure, the title justification is individual or in group?
Individual.
Okay.
Yeah. So the title justification. So everything else that we do within the class that's a deliverable is for your paper. It's for your final paper. The case study is the only thing that's going to be a group thing. Everything else is about the paper. The title justification, the final paper draft, and then the final paper, the presentation, and the video. Those are all towards your final paper. Everything, everything else will say, hey, case study. So the title justification, all about your paper. What's up, Dana?
Okay, only to be clear. So for this week, we just need to do the title justification.
That's it.
Right?
That's all you need to do.
Okay.
Yep. I know. I know. It's gonna be, yeah. This
So many
week.
information.
Yeah. This week only title justification is due. Okay. That's it. And then the case study is not till week 5. But I'll probably open it early for you guys so you kind of look at it and see. And if you want, you can kind of get started on it early, as a group. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
So
Thank you.
title justification, everything except for the case study is related to your final paper. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? No.
No, I think we're
Okay.
fine.
Okay. Make sure go in, review the PowerPoints again. We got through most of it, but it's 2 PowerPoints. Just go take a look at them. And good to go. With everything else, learning engagements were good this week. I appreciate everybody looks like so far. I like what was given. And just keep up the work, okay? And again, you guys have been pretty good about communicating with me about your issues and just late not gonna be there. So as long as I know that, I can work with you. And if you have any issues as far as points and that kind of thing, and just to be clear, when I grade the learning engagements, I'm grading the first one, which is due tonight, right? That's out of 14 points. So whatever grade you get, tomorrow or Friday, that's just out of 14 points out of the initial post. And then once you make your 2 other posts, then you get the rest of the 16 points that go with your total score, right? So don't think, you got an F for the whole thing because you got 12 out of 14 on the first part, all right? That's not the whole thing. I'm still waiting for you to give the responses, but that doesn't get graded usually till Sunday, unless whenever you put it in, that's when I grade it, basically, okay? So just a clarification, I don't want people freaking out. They see an F, tomorrow or Friday, and like, why do I have an F? Like, you don't have an F, you just got to do the other stuff, okay? All right. Anything else? All right. I will see you next week.
See you. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
You.
All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Okay, bye.
I'm sorry.
What's up,
Is
Billy?
it okay if I missed the first week because I thought it was 1? Is it okay if I turn that in late for late points?
The LE?
The first learning and yes, the learning objective.
Yeah. You're still
Okay,
good.
awesome.
Yeah.
All right, I'll turn it in today.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right, no problem.
Also, for the learning engagements, if I don't
Mhm.
send my comments for the 2 others and I have 14, is that an automatic F? Is there nothing better than an F?
As far as if you don't do the 2,
Yes.
yeah, you're gonna get an F because it doesn't matter if you max out on the initial post because that's
Okay.
taken out of 30 points. So it'd be 14 out of 30. There's still 16 points left. So you have those 16 points are allocated towards the replies or towards the 2 posts for your colleagues.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's nothing you have to do them to get the full credit. If you don't, then you'll just get
Because I
full
missed
credit.
it. I missed it for the week 1.
You missed it. You missed well, go back and go in there and do it.
There's no I couldn't do it because what I'm seeing is a pre-link. It doesn't give me an opportunity to post it.
Okay, maybe I need to open it. So I'll go in because Billy needs to do his and you need to do responses. So I'll go in and open it back up.
Thank you.
And that way you can do your responses. And so anybody that didn't do week 1 or is missing something from week 1,
Quiz
this is gonna be your only opportunity. I'm gonna open it and it'll be open till probably tomorrow night.
with quizzes.
No, not quizzes. No quizzes. Quizzes
Okay.
don't count.
Okay.
Good try though. Good try.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh.
But the LEs, yes.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Good night.
Everybody good?
Yeah. Good night, Professor.
All right. Good night.
Good
Yes,
night.
sir. Thank you.
All right. I'll see you guys next week.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.